Teron Davenport, USA Today, Eagles Wire, does a great job. Always enjoy talking football with him. And he jumps on board the Sports Bash here on a Wednesday, 97.3 ESPN. Teron, how are you, pal?
Oh, I'm doing really well, man. You got the nice throwback music on for me. I appreciate it. Arrested Development.
There we go. I like to mix it up. That's one of the themes of our show. We like to mix it up from time to time. I just got my last music, somebody texted in, where are you getting this music from? But a little Arrested Development, there you go. That's for you there, Teron. Hey, I want to talk about your article over at USA Today. A lot have been made of Greg Lewis getting let go. I know receivers in an area that's kind of near and dear to your heart as well. And a lot of reports about Sanjay Lal, a guy from Buffalo. Sammy Watkins had some interesting things to say about him. But I want to kind of get your perspective of first Lewis getting fired, the message there, did he deserve it? And then moving forward with where they stand with Sanjay Lal as the guy they're targeting.
Well, as of right now, there's definitely interest in Lyle, but when you look at just Greg Lewis and him being fired, I think it's an unfortunate situation because you have guys who just simply didn't deliver on the field. You make a trade to get a guy like Dorial Green Beckham, and you expect him to play to that frame that he has, but unfortunately he didn't. And I tell you, ironically, T.O. is in town, and I actually caught up with him at Liberty Place yesterday, and we talked a little bit about the position, and I tell you, just like Freddie Mitchell, T.O. looks at a lot of the blame to be placed on guys like Nelson Aguilar who didn't deliver and didn't come through on their draft status. Now, obviously, I'm a big advocate of Aguilar, so you want to see him, continue to be able to develop at his own speed. But unfortunately, this league, is not for long. And if you are not producing the way that you're expected to, someone has to pay the price. And right now, financially, Aguilar can't be the one to pay the price. Neither can Dorial Green Beckham. So, unfortunately, Greg Lewis had to go.
I want to ask about Dorial Green Beckham first because you mentioned they traded for him. They targeted him. This is a guy, ballyhooed, a lot of talent, top receiver coming into college. Is he salvageable? Can somebody come in here and talk, to this kid? Do you look at him as a guy that is salvageable, or is he a waste of our time? Waste of our time's harsh, I know, but we sensationalize sometimes. You know what I mean? Does he have it?
It's tough because when you use the word "it" and you're talking about receivers, it's all about just that delivery, the mindset, the personality. You have to have that mindset as a killer. You look at guys like T.O., when you talk to him about football, he's very reserved, but it's direct. Like you could feel the energy when he talks about it. These are the type of things you need from a guy. And unfortunately, in talking from Dorial Green, but it's a lot of nonchalant, and this is a bit of a personality issue. When you have a guy that's 6'5", 240-plus pounds, and you're out there on an island one-on-one against a guy who's smaller than you, like a Janoris Jenkins, and they don't take advantage of it, you should be pissed off. If you're in the slot and they move a linebacker out to cover you, you should be pissed off. And it should visibly be, something that people see. And it just, that type of approach is just not there with Dorial Green Beckham. I think it's salvageable, but, there's a lot that has to happen in order for him to get there. You look at one of the greatest ever in Jerry Rice. This is a guy that, everybody looks at and, he's so calm and composed, but he threw fits on the sideline where he was not targeted enough. You look at his last game in the NFL, with the 49ers rather, T.O. set the record for most receptions and they won the game. Jerry Rice was pissed off about it. He was seething in the locker room afterwards. That's just the way wide receivers are built. And when you have a guy who doesn't have that same mindset, it can be a bit of an issue because at the NFL level, everybody's talented. It's all about the mental part of it. And if you're not there mentally, then, hey, it is definitely a problem.
Then how about Aguilar? What is your read on him? Because he has said mentally he's not there at a time, right? He came out and admitted first-round pick. Does he have first-round talent? When you hear the mental stuff and then you watch him, I know you've been a guy who a lot of people too have said, look, this guy's got talent. But when you heard the whole, hey, I needed a little mental break and all that stuff after what you just said, do you look at him as a guy that is not salvageable?
No, I don't look at Nelson as a guy that's not salvageable either. I mean, I think both he and DGB are. It's just a little bit more of a process, you know. Or when you look at a guy like Odell Beckham Jr., a guy like Brandon Cooks, these guys, they're wired a little bit differently, so they could come in. Mike Evans, they could come in and succeed right away. But when you don't have that natural, innate, dominant personality at that position, it takes a little bit longer to develop. And I think that's what the issue with Aguilar is. He's eventually going to be a good player. I 100% believe in that. But it's just a matter of getting that person that coach to come in there and allow him to, you know, have the right mental mindset. And I think that's why Coach Lau is so important, because you look at what Sammy Watkins said. He literally said he does not know where he would be mentally if Coach Lau left. That's a serious statement coming from, you know, a guy that's in the league that's established as an outstanding receiver. So I think when you look at that, you move him into this Eagles program. I think that would help guys like Dorial Green-Beckham and Nelson Aguilar. But I think you also have to look at a guy like Keenan McCardle as a coach as well.
Can you speak a little to what a wide receiver coach does and brings as to why one would be better than another?
Yeah, I mean, we just touched on it, the mental aspect, you know, the approach. There's a lot that goes into playing a position. I mean, this is one of the positions where, you know, you're releasing off the line and you have to see what the safety and corner are doing together and understand what the defense is going to be, you know, where you have to settle in that zone, whether it's man, you know, how you have to stem your route. I mean, there's a lot going on, so much of the position is mental. And when you have a guy who has played the position, you know, and a guy who helps you be able to think on the fly and react instead of you know, actually process everything, because when you're processing stuff, that slows it down. You know, it's just like when you're clicking onto a website, you know, in a bad internet zone, you don't like how long it takes to process. So at the same time, you have to be able to move on the fly and allow things to happen quickly. And if you're thinking too much, that's what happens. So when you look at a receiver coach, he's someone who helps you understand the game. He's someone who helps you understand tendencies in different corners. He's someone who helps you understand ways that you could not reveal tendencies. You know, you got some receivers who, when they go to the line of scrimmage and it's a passing play, you see them kind of like move their gloves a little bit and tighten them up. These are things that at the NFL level, corners pick up on that. So a wide receivers coach is going to help you not you know, give guys tendencies and also give them, you know, sell your routes better and things like that. So there's a lot that goes into it. Obviously, catching the football, you know, the mental side of that is just allow the game to come to you, not fight the football, you know, caress it into the tuck. And these are things that these Eagles receivers have struggled at doing. So that's why a outstanding coach, you know, like a Keenan McCardle, you know, even a guy like a Riddle Anthony that I wrote about, you know, he excelled in Florida, and you get him. He's trained a lot of wide receivers, you know, that have moved on to the NFL. So you just need someone who's able to, like, filter through the nonsense, get to their mental side of it, and allow them to just relax and play football and have fun. That's the most important thing. You have to have fun out there. And the receivers that have a lot of fun, those are the ones that excel.
I brought the Arrested Development. You brought the nostalgia 90s wide receiver names. Good job out of you. Keenan McCardle, Riddle Anthony. Those are some great 90s names for you guys out there. But some names for 2017. I know the draft is a little ways off, but some guys are starting to declare, and this is a position we're kind of focusing on today. I love the one kid who declared today. I seen a lot of Shelton Gibson, West Virginia. I went there, so I watched him a lot. But he's kind of that Deshaun Jackson type, maybe a later mid-rounder guy. But who are some wideouts just to kind of tickle our listeners' fancy that maybe they can start focusing on that you like?
Well, we could start with the obvious. You know, Mike Williams is the guy that is fun to watch. You know, he gives you the splash plays, you know, high point in the football. So he's one. But as far as my list are concerned, you know, at the top of my list is John Ross, who is a guy that's a Deshaun Jackson clone. He actually has worked with Deshaun a lot, and Deshaun helped him understand, you know, how to be a dominant player as far as catching the deep ball. So he's a guy out of Washington that you definitely need to watch. You need to watch Corey Davis as well. He's a very good player. A very complete receiver. Katie Cannon out of Baylor is one. When you look at some of the lower receivers, though, I really think that Isaiah Ford is a guy to watch out of Virginia Tech. He's a guy who's very similar to Alshon Jeffrey as far as his ability to high point the ball, make the contested catch, stack the corners, and make those plays down the field along the boundary. So he's someone to watch. But I tell you a sleeper, and I just, got onto him today, and that's Rodney Adams out of South Florida. He's another very good receiver, a deep threat, a guy that could work the slants, the bubble screens. So this receiver class is very deep. So definitely for a team like the Eagles that needs a receiver, needs a guy that can make plays down the field. I mean, Stacey Coley out of Miami is another one. There is an abundance of deep threats, so they don't have to go wide receiver number one in the first round. And it's just one of those things where they could literally match their need to best player available.
Good stuff. That was what we were looking for. Just a couple of names the listeners can kind of keep their eye on. And I like what you said there. You might not have to get that guy at 14 or 15, that there are some guys maybe in that second round, because we know, Teron, they got problems everywhere. Pro Football Focus just ranked them 32nd in the league for secondary, fair or unfair, because it did say their safety play was very good, but that's how bad they ranked their corners, that their corners were so bad that as good as the safeties played at times, they were still ranked dead last in the league.
Well, I tell you, another guy declared today, and that's Marshawn Lattimore. And, man, Ohio State's their secondary is outstanding. But Lattimore is a guy I really like. Sidney Jones is my top corner. So when I look at this draft class, from the cornerback perspective, I think that it could rival the 2014 wide receiver class, and that there could be 6 to 7 guys that go in the first round. I mean, you could rattle off 6 of them easily, and that's the thing about this class. And we talked about the receivers, the Eagles being receiver needy. They're corner needy also, so they'll be able to rack up. I wouldn't be surprised if they take 2 corners. They double down in the second or third round and get a guy like a DeMonte Kazee out of San Diego State, who you're going to hear more from, especially, with my work at the Senior Bowl. And then the East-West Shrine game, there's some guys there next week also. So this is a deep class. Channing Stribling out of Michigan at the East-West Shrine. And then, there's so many guys. So it's definitely a year where you watch that position.
They're owed to Leto and Sheldon, maybe taking a corner in the first and second round. We'll see. Of course, the draft a ways off, but, man, you made me feel like I should have it like next weekend. I'm all ready to go now. Teron Davenport. We'll have to touch base when the Senior Bowl and all the draft stuff comes up. Check him out at USA Today. And, of course, you can follow Teron right there on Twitter at @TDavenport_NFL. Good stuff, my friend.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And, yeah, anytime. Just give me a call.